Shelly Schell is one of our, hi Dina, is one of our sponsors. And Shelly and I met through our similar coach. And Shelly is a good friend of mine. She has been a sponsor of Colorado Career Connectors this year. And she's just been a really amazing partner to help me and many women that I know get through financial fear and understand the market. And so I'm really excited about what she's going to share with us. I started, and we both have the same name, right? So that's Shelly with an S. I'm Shelly with a C. And I'm the CEO of Best You Career Advantage and also Colorado Career Connectors.
Sorry, it's already interrupted. You mentioned is this just for women?
No.
You just said women.
Not at all.
Okay.
I did, Alan, because we're in a coaching group with women, but no, this is for everyone.
Okay, I just checked.
Thank you. So Colorado Career Connectors just became a nonprofit, and you're going to see us really building our impact in workforce development and for job seekers and those who are looking for promotions and workplace development and professional development over the next 6 months. We're super excited about this designation and can't wait to see what we can do more for the community. If you have not met Yvette Bell, she is my director of operations, and she does graphic design and brand consulting. So anything that you might need in if you need a website or a logo, please reach out to Yvette. She is my right hand. And these are our sponsors. Anna Brambilla is a franchise expert. If you're interested in any type of franchise, she works with over 200 in her network. And Shelly Schell, who's going to present to us today, is a partner with PRISM Financial. On Yvette, what date does that say? I can't see it. Oh, on August 8th, we are bringing Nikki Massman in, who is a resume and LinkedIn optimization expert, to talk with you about leveling up your resume and also your LinkedIn. There are gobs of jobs out there, so we want you to make sure that you're doing professional branding that's going to speak to recruiters and get through ATS systems. And so she will be spending time with us on August 8th. So please make sure that you go out to Colorado Career Connectors and sign up for that.
Shelly, I think you muted yourself somehow.
How did I mute myself?
I don't know. I was trying to figure it out.
So where did I leave off with you guys? That's so funny.
You just started talking about this.
Okay. So this week, we have over 20 people already signed up for Craft Your Life. And this is an event for everyone where we have a recruiter coming from DocuSign. We've got past clients of mine who have been appointed by the mayor to be videographer for the mayor in his last 180 days. We have financial strategists. We have folks that are, so if any of you met or listened to Theta Johnson from DocuSign, Theta and her husband are actually coming to this. We have folks from Red Canary and Raytheon. So please sign up for this. It's going to be super fun. You can get a 15% discount if you input CCC15, and we're really looking forward to this event. If you have not already subscribed to Colorado Career Connectors, we have a website that shares not only our events, but community events that you might want to know about or be interested in that provide professional development, There's information for entrepreneurs on Denver Startup Week. There's things that are coming out from the Denver Business Journal and also the Colorado Women's Chamber of Commerce. So you can look at our sponsors, you can look at our resource page for resume writers, other type of coaches, and you can find Shelly Schell's contact information there, my contact information there. And we are just thrilled to be able to bring this content to all of you. Shelly is, like I said, a good friend of mine and also a sponsor of Colorado Career Connectors. She provides so much education to families and is a certified divorce transition professional and financial analyst. And Shelly, I'll turn it over to you so that you can introduce yourself and take it from here.
Thank you, Shelly. Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be here with you guys today. And I'm going to be, let me get my slides up here really quick, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about myself. So as Shelly mentioned, thank you. We've known each other for a little while now, and we resonate very similarly in the way that we kind of view helping others. Of course, I've been a financial planner for 25 years, as she mentioned, but what's really interesting about that for me is it's such an analytical field. And, you know, when you think of money, you know, there's so many emotions that really come up for people. And Shelly had asked in the beginning that maybe you put some of your feelings about money and things out there. But what I want to do today is really kind of demystify this financial planning conversation so that you can at least start through whatever transition, wherever you are. You know, if you're looking for a new job, if you're, you know, in the midst of thinking about it, wherever you are, you know, transitions happen to us in our lives a lot, right? It's not just a job change, for example. You know, I'm also a certified divorce financial analyst. So if you ever go through a divorce, if you've been through a divorce, you know, that's one of those areas where you just don't want to wait until the transition time to understand and have that relationship with your money. So today I really want to kind of walk you through creating this connection with your money in a financial planning world, but in a different way, right? It's not going to be your typical left brain thinking and very analytical today. Let's get outside that box and have some fun with it. So, okay. So really, you know, when you look at financial planning, as I had mentioned, it's very left brain, but I want to inspire you to learn more about your finances. And that's what kind of wants to get you going on today down this path, no matter where you are. And to me, obviously, knowledge is being empowered. And whatever you do, right, in your career or wherever you are in your life, I hope that you signed up for this call for a reason. You want to be empowered, right? You want to learn something. And the more we learn and the more we become engaged with our money, the more we're going to be like, I'm ready to take on this challenge, whatever it is in my life. And I know that my money is there with me as a partner and a resource instead of like, oh my gosh, I don't want to deal with that right now. And that's what I want you to think about today. So, and just being aware that you're not alone. And that's, you know, what I think Career Connectors is all about and why I love this is it's about camaraderie and creating connections so that you can move into whatever it is in your next stage of life with partners and help you create that knowledge and learning with each other. So the role of a financial planner, as the way I view myself, is, you know, to help both the client, but also the advisor, myself, whoever you work with your finances, understand how these financial decisions you're making today will impact your future and how you can you know, financial planning will help you understand, well, if I do this, then this, what if I want this? How do I make a job transition and still have enough money? What do I need to make, or what should I make in that next job? You know, I know Shelly works with you to get to the most that you can possibly make, but I want to make sure financially you're comfortable with where you are, and we can look at so many scenarios in the financial planning world. And that's what I think gets missed. My typical client comes to me later in life, quite frankly, when they're closer to retirement and they've never done any planning. Okay. Not even ever looked at it. They don't even know where to begin. And I get that because that's an industry issue, in my opinion, after many, many years. I can confidently say that. So if you can start anytime, today, tomorrow, but in the near future, you're going to just open your mind up to the possibilities of what your money can do instead of being in fear of what you don't have and it may not be enough, right? So it's all about education and getting comfortable in this process to help you learn how to make better decisions financially. So what I want you to kind of take away from today is a couple things. Like, one of the things that's important to me is making the financial connection, as I've mentioned, but learning how to create purpose-driven financial goals. And we'll talk more about that. So that's one of the things that's really key to keeping you committed and aligned with your money. And then also another thing that ties into that directly is aligning your spending, saving, and investing with your needs, wants, and wishes. And so that's a mouthful, right? But we're going to talk through what that means and how that helps you create more of a connection again to the income you're making and your daily spending needs, for all the things you need, like the gas right now, high gas prices or whatever, just your food, your basic living. And then when you understand how your income supports those needed expenses versus the want expenses, you can connect those and make better choices that will give you the ability to be more flexible during times of transition. Okay, so let's go on to the next slide. So it's all for me about being empowered, right? And I know, Shelly and I talk about this all the time. Empowering means equipping ourselves with the tools we have and the power to control our own lives, right? And sometimes during times of transition, that's when we get this like fog in our brain and we're like, oh my goodness, now what do I do? Right? Like I got to stop and focus on one thing. But what I'm trying to, teach you today and talk to you about is the more you open yourself up to thinking differently about your money and how it can be a resource for you and relationship to that money in a positive way, then you get to make different choices. So, kind of really enjoy, I do money mindsets on LinkedIn every Monday, Money Monday mindsets. And the more you connect positively to your money, right? The more that you feel like you are, making those positive choices and connections, the more you'll be able to move forward, right? So Brene Brown I'm sure everybody knows who Brene Brown is, and I'm not sure if you've listened to her famous TEDx talk, but she is she's a famous researcher, and she's just fantastic about putting, helping you see choices and becoming vulnerable. And money is one of those areas where vulnerability is so real, and we don't need to be afraid of that. We need to embrace it and we need to move forward with it. As Brene Brown says, it is all about creating relationships that help you move forward. And even when they're negative, embrace those, right? Like, it's time to embrace these feelings you have about money. So her quote, I love this quote: "Connection is why we're here," quite literally. And it is what gives purpose and meaning to our lives. So when we connect not only with people, right, but when we connect with ourselves, and for me, this quote takes it to when we can make that connection with our money, we can make such a bigger difference in our own lives instead of just thinking of it as a bank account or a 401k statement or I don't have enough, right? So I just want to, embrace this opportunity today to make that connection with your money. And then how do you get there? And we're going to walk through all that. So, I put some steps in here. How do we get there? We be curious and we learn. You can read all of these, but develop a positive attitude. Kind of talked about that. Set reasonable goals. We're going to talk about that more. Surround yourself with positive people and engaged people that help you with money in a positive light, right? So, and that happens like when you're around family or friends that may have a negative context of money. Just don't let yourself be absorbed by that. And that's like anything in life. Positive self-talk, be assertive, and create action lists. Of course, in all the daily lives that we live, action lists are obviously key. But one of the things that also Brene Brown does is she really works on the values and creating values for what you're doing in life. And this is one of the things that we're going to be doing today, is creating purpose and values to help align with your financial planning. Building relationships with money. I've talked a little bit about this, obviously. This is so important to me because this picture visually for me is so empowering, because it's literally time to start walking through this door, okay, in your relationship with money. You need to just stop with, the store's open now, and it's not just time to move forward, because transitions happen throughout our lives. Again, wherever you are in that phase right now, this is not going to be the last transition you're going to go through, right? So embrace this relationship with your money and move forward, because this workshop is all about helping you make enough of a connection that you can embrace it and grow from it into the future. And I personally have been through a lot of transitions in my life. And at the end of the day, I'm fortunate because I do this for a living, financial planning. But I also have my own hangups and nerves and fears around money. And I have to check myself. And I have the tools and the resources to do that, right? So I would encourage you to, however you decide to move forward after today, embrace it so that you have a clear understanding and some of the tools and resources to help you through this time now, but also in the future. Okay, I love this part of what I get to talk about, because as I mentioned in the beginning, financial planning is, totally left brain, right? So when you think about finance, you think about money, and so many people will say to me, well, you must be really good at math. You could probably do any number in your head. And quite frankly, that's not really the case for me. My tools do that math for me, as I laugh and tell people all the time. Well, I don't actually have to add up all these, complicated numbers and do this myself. But what's so interesting, and what Brene Brown talks about a lot, is, again, when you think about engaging your right brain with your money, right? When you think about the logic and the language of finance and money, a lot of people just blur out at that point, right? It's like, I don't want to connect to that. But if you can think about it in a more creative and intuitive way and use some imagination around that and make a connection, that's where I have found in my experience that people, once they do that, they are able to create a more lasting plan for their money. Like, they actually become more engaged, and then they understand what they're doing with their money and how it impacts their life. And it takes them into a far different place, and a positive place, as far as being able to, have what they want in their life financially, but also feel like they're not, limited to, what's in the bank account, for example. It creates more of a connection. So thinking about this, I love this visual, and I hope it resonates for you, that money and your bank statements and your investment and what's happening in the stock market and your 401ks that you have or have had, or you're thinking about creating, they're more than just, numbers on a page. They need to make personal connection for you in order to help you live the lifestyle that you're going to want, for the rest of your life. Okay. So what is a relationship with money? What's your relationship with money? And again, I'm happy to share these slides with you all so that you can kind of work through these, because I know there's kind of a lot of information out here. But, I, again, created a series of workshop. If there's videos that I have, I'll share with you later, called Seasonal Finance. And it's really about how to make this relationship with your money. And it's just like, how do you start? Where do you start with your money? And I think that's an issue for a lot of people, is they just don't even know where to start, right? They know how to look at their statements. They know how to do their, their monthly budgets and things like that. But to really create this relationship, these questions really help you dig deeper. And I call it journaling about your money. When you're having anxiety, when you're having fears, when you're going through transitions, you're just not certain, writing anything down in general, has been proven to help you get out of that funk, right? Like, get out of the head and into a place where you can really think through some of this. So, your financial story, does that allow for the lifestyle you choose or want to live in the future? Well, what is your financial story? First of all, what that means is a financial story is what's your history? What's your experiences with money? And have they been positive? What are some of those positive experiences? What are some of the negative experiences? Journaling and writing down these questions and taking some time to think through what that story has been in the past and how you might want to rewrite it or enhance it for the future, right? Like whatever our journeys have been in the past with money, we need to learn from them and grow from them so that we can, create different patterns and habits in the future. And transition is the best time for that also, because you're starting over anyway. So switching that brain, that switch in your brain in this new time is, you can do that so much easier when you already are doing it, right? You can do that with your money as well. Again, it's very similar. The next question, why do you make the choices you make financially? That is about, are you making those choices because of past habits? Is it a habit? Are you going to the store, the grocery store, for example, and when you go through the checkout line, are you adding things to your cart that aren't on your list that you really don't need, right? That's why they put them there. So, or is it purpose-driven? The next question, are you making purpose-driven choices? And does your spending, saving, investing align with my needs, wants, and wishes for my family and my community? I will touch on this in a bit more. But again, these are great questions for you to start, noodling over and do some journaling on after this call. And then again, how do I change my patterns and create structure and simplicity around money matters? And that's what financial planning will help you with. It will help you make better financial choices based on your goals and your values, not just your habits. That, unfortunately, that word comes up a lot for us in financial planning because it's just so rooted in what we do with money, quite frankly. So this is one of my favorite things to share. Align financial, I don't know if you can, my chart, I can't see it because my thing's up here, but when you align your financial picture with your values and your goals, that's when you really start thinking, about money differently and where you create that relationship and that connection. It's no longer about what my patterns were or are today. It's what I want that money to look for. And there's simple things you can do in that. So when you look at this diagram, at the center, you're going to see values, family, community, and experiences right here. These are my purpose. This is my purpose statements. These are things that are really important to me in my life. And I put them up here and I'm going to walk you through how to do this. But I put these up here because these are at the center of everything I do in financial planning for me and my family, right? So around me is my investments, my retirement, creating my legacy, which is estate planning. You probably hear a lot about that. You do have a will. What does that mean? Is it just not just a document that you've created to, leave some money to people, but does it have value and does it connect with what's important to you? Protection, we talk about like life insurance, different types of insurance. You have homeowners insurance if you have a house, you have car insurance if you have a car. This is in financial planning, we look at all of these aspects together to see how they come together into the circle to help you align with what you want. Do you have a business, or are you at the point in your life where you're leaving corporate America potentially and you want to start a business? How's that going to align with your finances and your goals? Emergency fund and tax planning. So these are the biggest areas when you look at financial planning, how all of these are going to integrate to get you to achieve your goals. Most of the time you're going to hear financial planners and advisors talking about this one little area right here, retirement. And what I want you to think about today is, oh my gosh, what are the possibilities? If I think about what's important to me with my values and my goals, how can I create a deeper relationship between all these different areas of my money? Okay. And what does that mean to me with, in regards to my core values and what's important? We're trying to get you out of that compartmentalizing your money. Oh, why is that? My slideshow isn't moving. There we go. Okay. All right, so moving forward, purpose-driven choices. What does that mean? So again, I touched on it a little bit when we talked about, when you go to the grocery store and you're at the checkout stand and you're saying, oh, I'm just going to add these kind of little items to the cart. When you really sit back and say, do I really need that? When you start thinking about purpose-driven financial choices, you can say, I know it's only a few dollars, okay, but it's the consistently spending those few dollars that add up to make a difference, so that then you're like, well, why don't I have any money left? I don't know if any of you have seen, I had a post recently on LinkedIn, if anybody have ever watched Sex and the City. And one of my favorite episodes as a planner, but also personally, is when Carrie is like, I have no money to buy this condo in New York City. She's like, I have no money. And she's a great writer. She's had a great career. And she's like, I have no money. And she looks in her closet and there's these shoes, like there's just a whole closet full of shoes. And she's just like, there's my down payment for my house. There's the down payment for my condo. And so had she thought about it just a little bit more consciously and thought about what the purpose of those, purchases were and how often she was doing it, right? It really would have added up for her. And in this particular situation, I just like to say that you really do have a choice when it comes to your spending choices, okay? So at the bottom, excuse me, I always talk about, let's align, and I mentioned this in the beginning, align your needs, wants, and wishes with your spending, saving, and investing, okay? So what this is really getting into is thinking about how you're spending your money, okay? Like at the grocery store, for example. Or another one that I see a lot is, well, I just buy, I just go to my local coffee shop a couple times a week. That $5 at the coffee shop 3 times a week really adds up. And it's the small dollars that add up to give you the long-term flexibility so that you can make transitions, right? So you're not stopped because you don't have the money. And so when you start to think about little things like that on a daily basis, it really adds up. And then it gets deeper, okay? So that you can deepen that to how does that, how does that impact, and how do I feel about, social responsible and what's important to me socially and responsibly and within my community? Am I shopping at the local coffee shop versus the big chain? And if I'm shopping at the big chain, that's fine. Do I really align with what that company believes in? And if I do, maybe I should invest in the company and buy the stock. So now I'm spending my money there, but I'm also a shareholder, and I'm actually a contributor to why that company is doing what it's doing, right? As a shareholder, you get a vote, you get to be engaged and involved. So again, we're taking that purchasing power that you have and the little dollars you're spending to, should I really be buying from this company? And do I really believe in it? And that goes back to the last thing here is it's all about engagement. What's in your cabinet? Are you buying the things that you believe in? And are you overspending just to fill a void? Or is it something you really need? And is it going to contribute to your lifestyle long-term? And we all are going to spend, comfortably. And I replace the word for my clients. I don't use the word budget a lot. And it's simply because when I do, and in my experience, when I use the word budget, people just back off. Like, I don't want to have a budget, right? We all know we have budgets, right? We have a budget in our spending. But when you think of it in terms of this and in terms of lifestyle choices, like you are now in control of your lifestyle choices versus the term budget, which has a negative connotation. If you just convert that word and say, I get to choose my lifestyle, nobody gets to tell me what my budget is, right? You get to decide how you spend and align your spending with what you believe in, but also how you want to live. And if you want to go out to dinner every night, that's a choice, right? We get to make those choices, but you may then limit some of the future lifestyle choices that you have, like a vacation, by doing it. So just thinking about it in that context helps you get more connected and understand habitual spending and long-term saving and investing. Okay, So here's where I'm going to start with some activities. And I am happy, I don't know how, and I apologize, I didn't ask Shelly, how I could share these with you all if you would like them in the future. But these are, I do a lot of journaling, as I mentioned, with that other slide, but this is a great place to start. So I've just listed some core values here, and just, you know, you can print this, you can do a screenshot, but just circling what your core values are. And you can circle as many as you want. You know, what is important to you? This is where in financial planning, this is not the standard. You know, when I started in my career many, many years ago, there was no search for core values in planning, right? It was all about, okay, you've got this much money, you're going to save this much, you're going to invest this much, and you're going to get this much of a return. And then you can have this much at retirement. This is really about how do you connect deeper to align your values and your purpose to what's important to you. And that's, in my experience, when you start to make changes, positive changes with your money, okay? So I love that, you know, whatever it is, it's important to you. And this changes. So in financial planning, traditionally, we like to update plans, financial plans, on an annual basis. We like to touch base with our clients and say, hey, what's changed in your life, right? What's new in your life? Is there anything different that's come up in the last year that may impact your long-term goals, right, with your investments? And, you know, when you look at this, like career right here, there's career transition. You know, you may have a big change coming up, and it may be that you're taking a cut and pay to be happier, right? How does that impact your long-term goals? And what's important to you is that this is what you're all about. So go through this, and again, happy to share these worksheets with you guys, you know, so that you can use them and print them off as well. And I haven't checked it on the chat, so I'm just going to take a second. Okay, I think oh yeah, okay, we're good. We're good with all this.
Shelly, there's a question here from Danielle on what are your thoughts on home warranties for appliances?
Okay, that's a good question. And I am not an expert when it comes to that specifically, but I would say, you know, in my experience, that oftentimes when we create buckets, right, when we create financial planning buckets, and what I mean by that is you're going to have like short-term, you know, needs. That's going to be that bucket that would fall in, that your appliances go out and you need to have a cash reserve of money that you can get to replace an appliance. Okay. Cause that's usually that's a couple $1,000s at least. Right. Yeah. You know, nowadays in this inflationary period. Anyway, so what you're going to have to do in those scenarios, and I have seen that it's worked pretty well, because it eliminates that need for that chunk of money all at one time, right? So in those situations, because you're paying for an insurance, basically on your appliances, you're just transferring that big risk, that big cost, and putting it on the insurance company. So you're just paying small bits. So if that is something that's more comfortable, and again, financial planning and all of these choices are very personal. Some people will just do not like that, and they want to save on their own and be completely responsible for that kind of need on their own, but others don't. And so that's a great question, because it really helps to identify, you know, how you feel about having to come up with a big chunk of money and put it towards that. Because I know for a lot of people, when they have to do something like that, it creates more anxiety. And so, you know, oh, I don't want to have to come up with a couple $1,000s to replace a refrigerator. And so in lieu of that, that would probably be a good idea. Yeah. I hope that helps.
Sorry about that. We had a 4-year-old refrigerator that went out. The home warranty gave us $350 for it, because they didn't have a new part. So you have to be careful with those home warranty. And we actually just got a new refrigerator, which we did have to put a lump sum down on. So just be careful with what the home warranty will give you.
And that is true, I mean, of any insurance. I mean, because you are transferring something and there's all that fine print out there as well that you think you're covered. But I have, my mom actually had a home warranty and they covered it. But again, it was because they had the parts different to Shelly. They came out and fixed it and it was a piece of cake, but for a full replacement, you know, on a 4-year refrigerator, that's a, you know, a frustrating experience, I'm sure. The other thing there's out there a lot right now too to help mitigate some of that is, you know, if you can do some of the, you know, same as cash financing when you're going to purchase a new appliance, for example, like, and then you know, those are the big box stores that typically will offer them, but you just have to make sure that you're budgeting yourself to pay that money off before that chunk of interest hits you at, you know, 12 or 24 months. So, but those are out there as a resource and a tool to help spread out a payment. So you don't have to come up with everything all at once, but you have to be very disciplined then to make sure you're paying it off, because otherwise you're going to get hit with a very high, very expensive payment, and that's not going to make anything better. So, but good question. Okay, I got to move forward. There we go. So this is back to this, when you circle all of your, you know, what's important to you, your core values, then you're going to write them down. You're going to take and you're going to write down your top 10, and you're going to start to just think about, you know, those top 10 values that are most important to you. And again, this is not about money. Okay. This is just life. Okay. So don't get confused with, these are my core values for money. This is just what comes to you. Next, I'm going to talk about purpose and vision. Okay. And again, this is journal worksheets that I use. This is a deeper, like, this is purpose statements. And this is kind of what I was alluding to earlier when I showed you that diagram and I mentioned mine, you know, providing for family, living mindfully, not being, you know, inspiring others, you know, living a successful life. When I do this for the purpose of financial planning, let me get back to that. Okay. Why we're here today. When I connect with people and I can help walk them through their core values and then their purpose and vision. And then we start on the financial planning. We keep going back to, why are you, you know, spending the money you're spending? Why are you investing the way you're investing? And what is really important to you, right? And when you start to use these two worksheets to help you think about money differently, you make a very different connection. Then that, for example, when you're talking about the $15 a week, you know, spending on that coffee, but your purpose and vision is to travel the world, that may then help motivate and inspire you to cut that to once a week, right? Like, how would me, you know, if I didn't spend $15 a week, if I just spent $5 a week, for example, how much closer would I be to my goal of traveling the world? This is where it becomes super relevant to money. Okay. Leaving a legacy is also something different. I'm just going to touch on a few of these. Like, for example, you know, leaving a legacy, to me, it's not just about leaving a bunch of money, right? It's, if you choose in a transition, like a job change, to go to, like Shelly started a nonprofit, for example. Nonprofits are a huge, when you think of leaving a legacy, that's what nonprofits scream, leaving a legacy. It creates a resounding impact on many people's lives in most nonprofits, and that's the point of them. And so, but leaving a legacy could also mean, how do I support and help, you know, other people in my family, for example, financially? This will help you determine, you know, really where you are at your stage in life as well, with some of these statements. And then you can chart out the top 4. Like, that's where I like to start, with the top 4. So circle as many as you like, and then identify where you are today and put them out. Like, what is going to give you meaning and purpose in your life today? And when I talked about every year updating your financial plan, these worksheets come into play, because this is going to change for you, right? As time goes on, as you have different things happening in your life, these are going to change, and they may build upon themselves, but they are going to impact you differently in your planning. Okay, the language of financial matters. So we've talked about quite a bit. Oh, here's an example of mine just to show that. So sorry about that. Okay, so these are some more worksheets that I use just to give you an example of how financial planning, the process starts. So you've been through your values, you've created your purpose statements, and now you put that aside and you're like, okay, how much do I have in fixed expenses every month? Okay, what do I have? I have my mortgage, my insurance, my property taxes, for example. My discretionary spending, and this is obviously going to be different for everybody. These are just examples. You know, vacation, travel. How much do I have every month to allocate to things like vacation and travel? You know, fixed expenses, how much you're spending every month for those, the discretionary expenses, you know, it just goes down the list there. This is, again, a tool that you may have, or there's so many online you can use that just helps you categorize your fixed and discretionary expenses so that you can get a handle on how much you're spending every month. And one other tip, and it's not something, again, some people stop and say, I just don't even want to get into this because this makes me uncomfortable, but you really need to do it. Another way you can do this is lump everything together and look at your bank statement at the end of the month and say, well, how much am I spending? How much am I bringing in every month? And how much am I spending every month? You can start there and then start dissecting this, but it's a really important tool when you're digging in the beginning to understand how much you're spending and where you can make some changes. Okay, and then you add in your income. Since you've already been through your fixed expenses, your discretionary expenses, now you add your income, and then you're going to see what's available for leftover. Again, these are worksheets to help you go through the process. Pretty self-explanatory. But of course, if you have questions, let me know. Okay, and why do we do this? Okay, first of all, we do this because once we start to create our budgets and our goals, we are going to understand how the different components then, and when we have our leftover money and we know that we want to take trips or travel or change jobs, what are we going to do with that money and how are we going to help that money grow for us, right? And we also talked about, you know, maybe I invest in that company that I spend a lot of money at every month, right? At the coffee shop or the products that I buy that are in my cabinet. But in order to do that, you have to think about this is the process that we take to get that money working for you in financial planning. So once you've been through all the planning and you understand how much extra money you have left over, then you get to start. Oops, go back to that. You have to think about how this works. Again, you need to understand, establish the goals and objectives. And that's basically where we are right now. You're establishing those goals and objectives with your values and purpose. Then you got to get into determining your risk tolerance for the money. And you evaluate economic conditions. And this is something you do with either an advisor or on your own. The investment selection, but this is a continual process that you're going to go through to make sure you're managing your money to align with what you have already started and created in your financial process. Okay, so when we talk about investing and allocations, okay, allocation is a big time. It's a lifestyle allocation. Percentage of income spent on lifestyle choices, right? So it's really dependent on, you know, this is just an example, and a very basic one. But when you decide what your choices are and what your values and purpose are and how much you're going to be spending every month on, you know, your discretionary versus your fixed expenses or the longer term goals, you know, you can start working on, and depending how visual you are, but this gets into that right brain thinking. You don't have to just look at a Excel spreadsheet, okay, in the way you think. You can use visuals that will help you make these connections that you're spending 50% of your income on fixed costs, right? Or 70%, whatever that looks like, so that then you can determine what the other areas are that, you know, you're going to spend you're going to allocate 10% to savings or 3% to savings, whatever that looks like. But using tools like this that can help you think of it a little bit differently than an Excel spreadsheet might help you make a healthier, more meaningful connection than just a spreadsheet. And that, again, is getting back to what I was talking about, but the right brain, being a little bit more creative about the way you think about money. The other thing as we do planning is there's time frames involved. And this kind of goes back to the question earlier on the appliances, is that you do need to have things like home improvement. And in that case, I'll just say that's kind of like a major purchase that you may not have expected, for example. But you got to put it into time frames with your money. And when we do financial planning, we're always looking at, and you may have heard the term buckets of money, but short term, like I'm going to need this money for if something happens, if my car breaks down or something, I'm going to need to keep this money liquid and as much, reach as possible so that I can get I can get access to it, excuse me. And then 3 to 6 years is more like a midterm. And those are goals like, I want to buy a new house, or I'm planning for a remodel. And then 6 to 9, that's longer term, meaning things like I really want, to take a trip that's going to cost like $20,000. I don't know, I'm just being extreme. And I cannot do that within 3 to 6 years. That's something that I really want to build up to. So thinking about what these, some examples, some common goals, and these different time frames, again, amount needed for those time frames and how they align with your core values and your purpose. And then 9+ is really like thinking about long-term. And for a lot of people, that's really going to be that retirement money. That just, I stop and don't even think about it. But let me say that in my experience, that long-term money that people have out there for retirement is oftentimes the most, it becomes their biggest bucket, obviously, over time, but it's also the least personalized. And when you're starting to align purpose and values with your money, you cannot forget that chunk of money out there, because it's invested in a 401k, for example, which is really common when we work in corporate America. You still have choices, and you still can make conscious and aligned choices with that money that comes back to your spending. So again, a great worksheet to help you start identifying time horizons and goals for yourself, but also making the connection with purpose and values. So here's an example, again, just a worksheet that I use to say, okay, by the way, if you have $600 left over per month, you can look at this, little spreadsheet. And these are the different areas that I've identified that I want to spend for, money, and this is obviously an example, but how much do I need to put aside every month from my extra to achieve these kind of goals, right? So, just an example to help you understand when you really start thinking, and life happens, right? We all know this. We're talking about transitions right here, right? But when you start thinking about this and you have some tools like these to help you with your money, then you start to see where the benefit of saving a little bit for a trip in 9 years can, a month can help add up to that goal. And Shelly and Yvette are about to go on a fabulous European vacation, not really a vacation, but a trek, and if you had the choice, like I know so many people who want to go, but they're like, I just didn't plan for it. And what I'm telling you is, if you just start little today, okay, you will have the resources through time horizons, if you start thinking about it like that, for something that you don't even know is on the horizon for you. And that's where I really think the value in doing these worksheets and connecting can help you, because you may not know that you're going on that European trip yet, but if you start saving a little bit long term for, down the road, then you'll be able to do it, whatever comes up.
Shelly, we have about
life insurance. Yeah. I'm going to wrap up here. This is just, again, a worksheet that I use to kind of help keep organized on where everything is on your, for insurance. Just making sure that you have that aligned for your planning. I'm just going to skip over that. The last couple worksheets I'm going to share as well. These are the questionnaires when we go back to, when I did the chart on, you've established your goals and you've determined all these things. Now, what do I do with this money? These are time horizon questions that you're going to want to use to help you figure out what to do with the money. Okay. So use these again. As you're walking through the steps, use them in, order to help you get to the end. And then your risk tolerance, very important. What makes you comfortable when it comes to investments, so that you can make money for you, right? That's the goal ultimately for any of the extra money you have, is that you're putting it somewhere where you feel comfortable enough, right? And that's what this worksheet does, is help you feel comfortable making those decisions on where to put the money and how risky to get. But at the end of the day, here's the biggest kicker. We hear about inflation on the news every day. If you don't invest your money long-term, inflation will erode your purchasing power. It is just, unfortunately, the biggest issue that we have. And thankfully, it has not been a concern until only recently. So hopefully it doesn't last. But, being invested is a very healthy thing if you're comfortable with it. But you also need to invest in companies you believe in, which goes back to what I talked about originally. It's full circle. Once you go through this process and you start with your core values and purpose, you may decide a company that you own in your portfolio is not something you want, and that's your choice. You make the decision not to own it, or you talk to your advisor and say, this is not a company I believe in and I don't want to do business with them, and stop buying the product and don't invest in it. But this worksheet will help you kind of identify your risk tolerance. And then I do an online risk score as well. And I know we need to wrap up, but at the end of the day, you really can have it all. You can do, knowledge is power. Join groups. I know this does say, sorry, Alan, this says join women's groups, but it's join groups that empower you, right? Like listen to motivational speakers that, help you feel comfortable. Like I mentioned, Brene Brown for me. And for many, I know that I know personally that use Brene Brown, but just making those connections and staying in tune. And one of my favorite things to do in financial planning is journaling about your money. Journal about, not like, oh, this is a spending, not like how much am I spending every day. Okay, I'm talking about journal about what your habits are around money, what makes you feel good about money, and what makes you feel bad. And that's something I would do probably once a month at least, like tracking your monthly feelings and emotions around money and how your planning is going. But there's obviously a lot of people out there that can help you. That's why you join Career Connectors. And I'm sure Shelly can provide resources for you as well if you needed them. So again, I'm Shelly Schell, and we'll wrap up there. But I thank you, and I hope this was helpful. And it's just kind of an introduction to a different approach to financial planning, but one that I hope you embrace as you're going through your transitions in life. And it will help you, stay on track and be more engaged, and hopefully create that relationship with your money that's enduring. And I like to say it's like a long-term friend. You may not talk all the time, but when you do, you are connected enough with that relationship that it feels good. It's a good, healthy relationship, and it's going to go through changes and you're going to learn from it. But at the end of the day, it's always there for you. That's what we want your money to do for you.
I know for me, I've had a lot of fear around money. Am I going to be homeless? Are my kids ever going to go to college? Am I ever going to retire? And one of the books that has helped me a ton, it's Not Your Money by Tosha Silver. And I am spiritual, but not religious. And there's like just a mantra in here about how you let the divine bring you what you're supposed to have. And I personally believe that the universe is conspiring for all of us to have abundance versus scarcity. So again, it's not your money. How to live fully from divine abundance. The other thing that has really helped is listening in to what Shelly has to provide. Shelly also was on a panel with a group called the Pledgettes, or genuine, they are in our resources page. We have lots of different ways, but what I love about not having that fear as much anymore is leveraging the tools that Shelly provides. And you can find a lot, there's Mint, there's different apps out there that can help you keep the budget. But what I really like also is, where is my money invested? How do I help others not feel so insecure around money? Because let's face it, like, our value, and especially as you're going through the job transition, what can unemployment provide to you? What will your side gig provide to you? Just as you might need a coach to help you with your career search, for me, I need a financial coach that helps me have less fear and have more faith and align more with my values. So we will be sending out this recording along with how to connect with Shelly and me. I know some of you are looking at retirement. I know some of you are looking at getting out of what you're doing and what does that mean financially. I can highly recommend Shelly. I also have other resources and if you might be interested. So Shelly, thank you for your time today and for being a sponsor for us. Any questions from Danielle, Allen, or Dina? No? Okay. I hope to see some of you on Thursday night. I know a few of you are going to be going to that. I can't wait to chat with you in person. Thank you for joining us today. And Shelly, thank you so much for all of your passion and in-depth knowledge on finances in transition. Take care, everyone.
Thank you all.
See you next time.